I am Moonwalker Tanya, and this is the MJ and Ascent podcast. Alright, so in this episode, I want to talk about Joseph very briefly. So I came across a video on Instagram. It was a picture of Michael with an audio playing, and Michael was talking about his childhood with Joseph. You know, he said that he really wanted a father, but he didn't feel that father-son connection with Joseph. He said that they never played a game together. They didn't have a pillow fight. Joseph didn't give Michael a piggyback ride or anything like that. But he also mentioned that one time when they were at a carnival, Joseph picked Michael up and put him on a pony. And Michael said that at that moment, he actually felt like a father-son connection, you know? It's just sad, though, that it couldn't be more than that. Yeah. It's very unfortunate. But the thing is, we have to remember that if it weren't for Joseph, we wouldn't have Michael. We wouldn't have his brothers or his sisters, you know? Do I agree with everything that Joseph did regarding his kids? No. But there's no such thing as the perfect parent. I'm not sure if Joseph, I don't think he had any regrets. And in a way, I can kind of understand where Joseph was coming from, because they lived in a bad neighborhood at the time when they lived in Gary, and he didn't want his kids to end up in trouble. It's just a shame that he used fear as a way to control them. I really don't think that that's necessary, but that's just not what I would do if I was a parent. Yeah. But I am glad that Michael was a wonderful father to his kids. He gave his kids the father that he wanted. So what I want to say is, thank you, Joseph, for giving us Michael and his brothers and sisters. I really hope that since you're both up there in a better place now, that hopefully you two can reconnect again on a more father-son level. And Michael, I am sorry that you were taken from your children much too soon. Speaking of much too soon, I actually do love that song. Yeah. So, yeah, to anyone who didn't have, the parent-child connection that every child deserves to have, I really am sorry. I mean, it is true that I'm not a parent myself. But, when I was a child, my childhood wasn't normal either. I can't compare it to Michael's, but let's just say being visually impaired does interfere with things. Like, for example, do you remember when Michael was talking about how one of the recording studios was right next door to a park, and Michael wanted to go play with the kids, but he couldn't because he had to record? Well, because of my disability, there were a lot of sports in gym class that I couldn't participate in, so I had to sit on the bleachers and watch my classmates play sports. I hated it. I felt left out. But I couldn't do it. It wasn't safe. And even though Michael didn't like to drive, from what I've heard, I've actually never been behind the wheel of a vehicle. And I never will, unfortunately. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, Tanya, trust me, you're not missing out. Well, trust me, I've been, I've seen so many bad drivers in my life. So I know in that situation, I'm not missing out on anything. But you just have to remember that when you've never been behind the wheel before, it's kind of like how you felt when you were 16 and you were getting your license and you were going to be behind the wheel for the first time. Like, it's always that feeling. And when Michael was constantly touring when he was a kid, well, when I was a kid, I constantly had a lot of eye surgeries. Yeah. So, in a way, like I said, I can't compare my childhood to Michael's, but I know what it's like to have part of your childhood taken away from you. So, yeah, I just wanted to share this with you guys, and I will see you in the comments.